Hey, this is Madalyn
and Suze Cooper, and you're listening to All Things Audio. We have some rather exciting news to kick off today's All Things Audio space with, and it's actually news about all things audio, right, Madalyn?
Yes, very exciting news. We have a new sponsor. For our longtime listeners, it should come as no surprise. We're big fans of Zealous, and they are our new sponsor of the space, of the podcast. So something that Suze and I both use. We love this tool, and we're really excited to have them be our sponsor. What do you think, Suze?
I mean, we've been using it more and more over the last few months, and certainly over the last few weeks. I've been really excited to use the audiogram feature. We spoke about it quite a bit last week on the show. And so, yeah, it's really great that Gregarious has really kind of got behind us and is now our new sponsor. So really exciting news for us. And if anyone wants to know anything more about Zealous, then just drop us a note and we can tell you all about it.
Yeah, and just a short little blurb about it if you're not really familiar with Zealous. It's an AI assistant that lets you take your recorded content, like what we do here in Spaces and podcasts, so you can easily repurpose it. And, you know, us good marketers, that's something we're really big on, is repurposing our content. We've been using it to create audiograms lately. I have one in the nest here that, Suze, you created, I think it was yesterday, right? Where you brought in some of the audio from last week's space and used it to promote this week's space.
Yeah, so I basically found a little bit that I thought might spark a conversation. So it's actually kind of a question we spoke about last week, whether or not social audio is just a global phone call. So I went along and found that bit in the transcript, and then you do it all via text. So you highlight your text and then you tell it to generate your audiogram, and it's incredible. You can customize it. That one there is with our All Things Audio purple, and it gives you all kinds of different variations of audiogram as well, and you can just pick the one you want and download it. So yeah, it was a nice way of promoting this week's space.
So if anybody wants to learn more, just go to, in case you don't know, we actually have a website. Go to allthingsaudiopodcast.com/zealous to go get more information. But yeah, we do actually have a website, allthingsaudiopodcast.com. So if you've never been there, go check it out and tell us what you think. Thank you to Zealous and Gregarious, big fans of their tool. It helps us tremendously, saves us a lot of time. So if you have not played around with it, do their free trial and you'll see why we both fell in love with it so much. So we do have a little bit of Twitter X. I still call it both because, you know, some people still want to call it Twitter. Some people want to call it X. But yeah, we got just a little bit of news to share. Not really a whole lot with Spaces, surprisingly, but they did put out a post from the @X account. They put out a post last week about how they're doing a lot of upgrade and improvements to video and media, like long form videos. If you're a premium subscriber, that used to be called Twitter Blue. They now call it premium. If you're a premium subscriber, you can have really long videos. They're trying to compete with YouTube. So instead of, 2 minutes and 20-second video. So if you're not a subscriber, your videos can't be very long, but as a subscriber, it was 10 minutes. Then they added up to 60 minutes, but now with this new update, 2 hours if it's 1080 pixels, 3 hours if it's 720. It's like, holy cow, they're really like going all in on video. But what's interesting in this post is towards the bottom, they do mention Spaces a few times, and they mention that being able to speak and co-host a space on the web, which we already knew about because that was launched recently, but is it still like having issues? I think it is. Hopefully it'll start working better soon because Suze and I are very eager to start hosting directly on desktop instead of through our phones. Would that make your issues that you're having with your tech today, would that improve it, or does that not really matter what you're dealing with today, Suze?
Yeah, the issue that I've got, I don't think it really cares whether or not it's coming from the phone or via desktop, particularly because it will come via the roadcaster either way. So I don't think it would make any difference with that. But it's just interesting. I mean, this was posted, 5 days ago? And as you say, it is really a post that is about improvements to broadcast and video, and they're clearly going all in on video, which is what we expected. But just those last 2 points on the bottom, the fact that Spaces is mentioned, as we've said all the way along, if they're going to mention Spaces, then it's obviously in their minds somewhere, and it just gives you a little bit more reassurance that this is a feature that hasn't been completely forgotten. This talks about, support for millions of participants on Spaces as the final bullet point in this post. And, that's kind of, as I say, reassuring that they're aware that there are lots and lots of people that do actually use Spaces on a daily basis, every day, every week, like us putting this on. And, I think it would be a real shame if it were to kind of fall by the wayside. And I think one way that we might be aware of that happening is if they stop talking about it and stop including it in posts like this, where they're kind of talking about improvements and maintenance for broadcast and media. So it's just good to see it there. I think it's a little kind of reading between the lines. It means it's not been forgotten.
Yeah, that was definitely some reassurance. So it's good to know that they are going to keep working on Spaces, improving it, and give us the support that we need, that we want. So excellent news. And that ties into this next post from Elon Musk himself. And we've seen him talk about this a little bit more recently, but in this particular one, he is doing a quote post from a podcaster saying, I recommend strongly. Wait, that just threw me off because he uses the word recommend twice. I just now realized that. I strongly recommend posting your podcast on X. It's easy and will get incredible distribution. So he's definitely been encouraging more podcasters to use the platform. But it seems like, Suze, that it's really about the video podcasters, because it's really talking about having your video version or your live stream version of your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, once again, with many of these posts that we discuss week after week, it's quite vague, and it's kind of a bit of speculation as to what the actual story or what it might actually be telling us about what's going to happen at X. As you say, this seems to relate to video podcasts mainly because he's retweeting a video podcast right there. But yeah, I guess wanted to include this one today just to say, well, what could this really be about? Because as I say, it doesn't really give us a great deal of insight into any definites, So we've heard about podcasts being included on what was previously Twitter. I mean, they tried, they did something with it. I was never sure it was completely the right thing. Obviously, Elon believes that it's something to continue with and wants to change the direction that Twitter had taken it in, which I think is a good thing, because as I say, I'm not sure that was really going down the right path. But what is this what is this post really telling us? I don't know. This is, the All In podcast tweet is time-stamped. It tells you where to go within this video to listen to certain pieces of content. This was something that I tried to do with Spaces, right? So when we used to retweet out our replays, I would try and timestamp. I did it for a few weeks. I only did it for a few weeks because it's quite time consuming to go back and work out where you started talking about each thing. And actually, while you're hosting and presenting, you don't really think to take a note of what the timestamp might be. So, that is a really useful thing for people. If X was going to do that automatically, then that would be amazing. That would be wonderful. But I doubt it. I don't know. I mean, what's your kind of thoughts on this, Madalyn? What do you think? How can podcasts and this platform really play into each other's strengths?
Well, the thing is about this platform is it's never been seen as a place for videos or any long form content. Until Spaces came along, there was nothing really long form. Spaces changed that. And now we got the long form posts that we can do. I've seen Elon go back and forth on here talking to Mr. Beast, trying to lure him over here. He wants YouTubers over here. He wants people coming to this platform. He wants it to be the all-in-one. He doesn't want you going elsewhere. And we know that a lot of the big podcasts have incorporated video and they have them up on YouTube. So he's trying to, I think, grab their attention over here. And he's done multiple tweets just like this one, where he is showing one of these high quality videos of a podcast. It's still a little confusing to me because when I think of podcast, I think of audio. I think of a podcast player. I don't think about going to YouTube or here on X with a podcast. So I don't know. It's almost like he's trying to educate people is how I see it. He's trying to like let people know, hey, this is something you can do over here. We want you over here doing it. But what is this distribution he's talking about? Is he going to do some kind of RSS? Is he going to come up with a solution like our sponsor Zealous does? You know, we talked about it last week when Gregarious was here about how one of the cool features with Zealous is the ability to have an RSS directly from there. So if you are hosting spaces or even a podcast, you can utilize them as your host. You get the RSS so you can have it on Apple and Spotify and these other platforms. So do you think Elon is trying to do something like that here on this platform to really lure all podcasters over?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about RSS and whether or not that would be something they would bring into what was formerly Twitter. I would suggest that wasn't the easiest thing to do for whatever reasons, whether or not that was a partnerships reasons or publishing reasons or whatever, because had it have been an easy thing to do that, surely that's what they would have done when we had the audio tab, right? Because that seems like your obvious thing. If you want people to stay on the platform for longer, and by giving them long form or even short form audio content, you know, people are going to hang around and listen to whatever they're listening to while scrolling in the app, then that's going to keep them in here, right? So I get why they would want to bring podcasts over here. As you say, people with huge audiences over on YouTube. So the YouTubers, the video podcasters, the Mr. Beasts of this world, of course Elon wants them over here because he wants their audience on this platform and he wants them not to leave this platform and to be on here for hours at a time. So all of that really does make sense to me. But I just feel like if the RSS thing was what they were looking at doing, I feel like if it was easy to do, the Twitter team would have done it when they had that audio tab. They created a whole separate area for audio and for people to listen to podcasts. But then they forced you into listening to their pre-selected audio, which was really strange. There must have been, I'm not sure where that decision would come from, whether that's a UI decision, whether that's a technical back-end decision, I'm not sure. But I would love to know. If only we could have got hold of someone that had worked on that from Twitter before everybody disappeared. But I mean, looking again at this tweet, so he, you know, I strongly recommend, he needs an edit button, I think. I recommend strongly posting your podcast on X. Great. It's easy. Well, yeah, it is. It's as easy as anything else when you post a link, right? We post our podcast on here every Friday. It is easy. You post a link, it pulls through your usual social media card to promote it. There you go. And Elon says it will get incredible distribution. Now, that's not that's the bit that I'm kind of like, okay, well, how?
Exactly.
Is he going to wiggle the algorithm so that it favors RSS like links or, you know, podcast links in some way, you know, because to be quite honest, our podcast tweet that I sent out on Friday, that got 116 impressions apparently, and it was retweeted twice. So, you know, and favorited and all the rest of it. It really doesn't at the moment, just for any old Joe, give you fantastic distribution. Whether it will in future or whether it will for Mr. Beast if he comes over here is a totally different conversation, isn't it?
Yeah. And one of the newer features they have implemented on mobile, there is a couple of new iOS versions of, like, there was one, I think it was late last week. There's been one, I think, yesterday. So if you're on iOS, definitely go do the update because there are some changes that took effect as soon as that update was in place. And so if you haven't updated your app in a while, you might not see some of these. But a newer one for videos, when you're going through the feed, you see a video, you can watch it and then put it into picture-in-picture. There's the little icon. So that way you can keep scrolling. You can do other things in the app while you're still watching the video on the screen. So I'm wondering if that's when he talks about incredible distribution, is he meaning something like that? Because think about it. Let's say with this particular post that we have in the nest here, I see this podcast. Personally, I have no interest in this podcast, but let's say I did. It's like, thank you, Elon, for sharing this. So now I'm going to go watch this. Well, this video, first of all, is 1 hour and 52 minutes long. That's crazy long content, right?
I honestly don't think anyone's podcast needs to be that long.
No, I agree. It's just these guys talking. It looks very boring to me. But here's some of the new features on the mobile app is not only can you do picture on picture, so that keeps it going and people are tuning in while they're still surfing around, but you can also speed it up. You can tap on it to go at a higher speed or a lower speed. And they also have a new feature where, just like on YouTube, on mobile, you can tap to go ahead and tap to go back. So it's like he's turning this into YouTube, among other things. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to start playing out. And will this also get more podcasters to utilize video? I know we've talked about that quite a bit here in All Things Audio. I'm still just a fan of traditional audio podcasts and just using audiograms to promote versus recording video, a video version. So, but that's just me.
Do you know, I just looked up, I just chucked the All In podcast into Google, and the first thing that came up was their YouTube channel. And in fact, the show notes for this episode that we're looking at in this post are exactly the same. So the timestamps. So it's, I mean, almost as if potentially if you post to YouTube, is there going to be some kind of YouTube X connection in there somewhere where, you know, you post in one place and it filters? I don't know. There's so many things they could do with it. And it's, but you know, the fact, I mean, okay, lots of people will copy and paste stuff in places because, you know, it saves time and you only want to write it once. But I just wonder, like, I'm trying to get under the skin of what this post is trying to tell us. But
exactly.
Yeah, nobody's podcast needs to be 1 hour and 52. You know, you need a good editor who can really take the nuggets of what you say, because in 1 hour and 52, you're not every sentence you say is going to be gold. I can guarantee that.
We've got Clubhouse stuff to talk about. I tell you what, there's been a lot of conversation going on with that in our little group DM this week with all the new things going on. I'm trying to see if I can get Michael and Morgan in here. But lots happening at Clubhouse, and I'm so eager to hear more about it because, you know, we've talked about it quite a bit here. I have not been on Clubhouse in a very, very long time. I just got really turned off by the platform. I just prefer to be over here. But it sounds like some interesting things are coming, and I might just have to go back over there. So I'm so eager to hear more about it. But is my understanding right that there was going to be a big town hall that they were going to have? There was a post from Morgan, I'm going to put in the nest, but then they ended up not doing it and just talking about like, we're going to come back. I was a little confused because you go to this link and it's like not there.
Michael, you were most certainly our person on the ground at the town hall.
This town hall that they had last night is actually the same time that they have weekly held a room for quite a long time. And for a long time through the club to house transition and other things even before that, they used this time for a town hall to talk about what's going on with the platform. And since in the last few months, it has been a not so town hall is kind of what they joke about because they don't have much to say. Now, we knew that a big update was coming, but Paul Davison, the co-founder of Clubhouse, wanted to lay out a few points to sort of get people ready because there are going to be quite a few changes to the Clubhouse platform, including user interface changes. And there is some hubbub, some like little rumor things floating around that there could also be different ways that they calculate followers or co-follows or friends or, you know, something along those lines. So, you know, we don't know yet what exactly is going to happen, but we know that there's some big changes coming to the platform because they are very, very focused on friendship. And if you'd like, I can play a clip here because one of the things that Paul did mention was that they really are de-emphasizing the idea of broadcast, of creating shows and programs with Clubhouse. the team is hyper-focused on friendships and those sorts of connections, getting people talking to each other and building those relationships. So would you like for me to play that clip? It's about minute 37, but it kind of it's a good all-around sort of summation. Okay, so here we go. This is Paul Davison, the co-founder of Clubhouse.
The goal of the update, the thing that we've really tried to focus on, is making it easier for more people to talk. And I know that there are people in the community who are incredible audio creators who want to host great rooms and broadcast to the largest audience possible. And this update is not focused on broadcast. It's focused on helping more people, helping everyone talk and participate and have fun. Our mission is to increase friendship in the world. It's to help people deepen friendships and make new friends. But a great house isn't about the polished content that you listen to. It's about the imperfections. It's about the house members, the friends that you spend time with, the stories, the sense of community. It's not about content. Content is great. But as a passive listener of audio content, you can get plenty of great content by downloading podcasts and audiobooks and opening YouTube and watching TikTok. And if you're an audio creator, we love that you're on Clubhouse. But we think that houses are more about community, and you should probably be posting to other platforms as well, because content, it's just such a small part of the overall experience of being in a room with people and sharing that time with them. The way I think about it is that Clubhouse is not about maximizing reach to a faceless audience. That's not Clubhouse at its best. The best part about Clubhouse is the people and the friendships. That's what makes it special. And that's what the new update is focused on.
So there you go. It's all about friendships. Take your broadcast somewhere else. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. And how if you want to use Clubhouse as a way to start conversations that can be recorded for a podcast, we'll see how that plays out. But that's not what Clubhouse as a team is focused on. So back to you.
Yeah, I think the line that I really took from that was, it's not maximizing reach to a faceless audience. Which is like, whoa, okay. And also he said in there, it's not for audio creators. So I'm guessing those rooms that I know myself and Morgan quite enjoyed, the music rooms, all of those kind of things where people weren't talking to each other, essentially. You were listening to some fantastic spatial audio tricks going on, but no one was having a conversation. They're kind of saying that's not what we're here for. Those broadcast platforms, in a way, things like Blast, we spoke to the guys from Blast a few weeks ago. They are very much trying to capture the broadcasting programmatical side of social audio and getting people to go on regularly and, push out their content, whether that's dialogue or music or whatever it might be, field recordings, all sorts of different things. But for Clubhouse, they're very much going all in on the fact that this is about talking, right? It's about connections.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, we have yet to see what this user interface change is going to be like, or what other sorts of things about the platform may change. I mean, it's entirely possible that the core structures of Clubhouse as we know them, the room, the hallway, houses, will be shifted around or changed or possibly eliminated, or we just don't know. And so it may be that Paul is giving a heads up to people who are doing music rooms and shows and other things that, like, the platform is really not going to work well for that after this update. We don't know. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I listened to the replay earlier today, and I really got the impression that this town hall was very much positioned to give people the heads up that it is going to change. We've all been talking about it. It's going to change. It's going to be a big update. It's going to be totally different. But I think they are really trying to drive that message home now to the users, to people that have been on there doing different things, that there are features that potentially people have been relying on and using regularly that are just going to disappear when they make this update. And it really just felt like it was a bit of damage limitation, in a way, that they were talking about these things and the things that might be removed, and who they really feel their audience is. They're almost like revealing to us, right, this is who we are targeting this particular product at now. Okay, it's been used in lots of different ways over the time, but this is really what we're niching down on now. I mean, that's, the buzzword for things, isn't it? Is find your niche and really go for it. And it really feels like that's what they're doing. And I think you're right. This big update is going to look completely different. We could very well lose the hallway. What might that look like? What might it be in future? They've said that the goal is to make Clubhouse better and easier for more people to use. Well, most certainly in the last few months, it's become almost impossible for anyone that isn't a complete hardened Clubhouse fan to get in there and actually break into how you find people and how you find things and how you use it. And it's put an awful lot of people off. So it's good that they're saying they're trying to make it better and easier for people to use. And I would expect that to include a completely new UI. And I love the fact they're saying that they want to evolve the product together as well. They do want to involve the communities, involve the people who have been talking and building up relationships on there. And I think there was even mention that if there is a feature that you're desperate for that disappears, you should get in touch with them. That was what they were saying at some point, I think.
Yeah, he made mention that, they've been trying to get this done. There are some things that they've removed, and we'll see what those are. But there may also be some things that just in the process of doing this build, they just overlooked it and they messed something up. And he said, let us know if there's a feature you really need. Tell us about it. We'll see. But it may just not serve the purpose of what we're doing with the platform, but we'll see. And if it's something we could put back in, we could put it in pretty quickly. It's one thing he said. So, and we talked about it in our Roadcaster group yesterday evening after the announcement that this heads up may be for people who use professional audio equipment. And it may be that they're going to take out the audio settings for doing stereo because it just doesn't serve the platform and it makes it too complicated and just a number of things. And so, we'll just see what happens. We'll roll with it.
I thought it was quite strange, almost the content of that town hall, though. And I guess, I haven't listened to them for a very long time, but there was sort of 20 minutes of Paul very much talking around the announcement and things. And then they totally kind of went off on a bit of a segue and they spoke to Yvette Vargas, who's a TV executive, I think, about the Hollywood strikes, the writers' strikes and things. And that was really interesting, but I wasn't quite sure how that all came together with their announcement. I mean, is that something that they usually do? Or was it just a bit random?
So this one last night was sort of a hybrid town hall and community gathering. And what they've been calling the room when it's not been a town hall the last few months is a community gathering. And they have different community members and comedians and musicians and people who will come and share and, connect, things like that. So this was a little bit of both last night because they couldn't fill the 45 minutes with the announcement. So they did that up front and then kind of did the same things they've been doing for a little while. So
essentially what they were doing is modeling how they want people to use it in future then. Because what they've done there, they've, as you've just said, they've invited lots of different people, heard from different people in different industries in different ways. But it's been very voice-based, very dialogue-based, very conversational. I wonder whether or not that's been a choice, to do that and to kind of say, this is what we're looking for.
Yeah, very likely. And along the same lines of friendship, one of the things that they asked people just the other day on Monday before the town hall was, have you met your best friend on Clubhouse? Let us know. Email us. And they told some of those stories at the town hall last night too. They really are leaning into friendships, leaning away from broadcast, and they want to show that, voice is a great way to connect people and bring friends together.
Well, it certainly brought us a lot together yesterday ahead of the town hall announcement because we were talking to one another and using the voice notes here in the DMs and everything.
I had
great.
So much to say, and I'm like, I don't want to type all this out. My fingers hurt. I'll just leave a voice message. It's great.
Yeah, it was all down to you. You started it, Michael. It was great. But I think, again, that really proves the beauty of a voice for a start, because it was easier to have the conversation. And at one point, I think I even said if only we could spin up a private space or whatever in the DMs or in the community and speak about this. And that's one of the things that on and off we've had access to over here on X. So I guess we see what their how they might react to whatever Clubhouse brings out, and whether or not that puts a rocket up Elon for Spaces. I don't know. What might their reaction be? I find it hard to believe that they would not do anything.
Well, and I was just thinking, maybe this is in some way Clubhouse just conceding the broadcast social audio thing to Twitter or X Spaces, and the way that works. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of spaces here. There are other online platforms where you could do something similar if you want to bring people on stage to talk or whatever. And so like Clubhouse focusing on friendships really is a niching down and saying everybody else can do broadcast, we're doing friendships. Now, how successful that will be in the long term for them as an organization, it's a whole different conversation, but this is where they're going.
But at least we're having a conversation about them again, which I think is truly exciting after all this time. So thank you so much for being our man on the ground and gathering all the intel from the town hall yesterday. It's good to hear about it.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Very welcome, very welcome.
This will be interesting, Suze. One of the things that kind of got me not so interested in Clubhouse was very early on, I saw that people quickly started using it to broadcast, to like a TED Talk. And you did not get the opportunity to ever request a mic and speak. And it was always these bigger names, and they bring all their friends up, and you could only be a passive listener. And I'm like, okay, I don't feel like I want to come here. I'm not looking for a TED Talk. I just want to come here and connect with people. So it really rubbed me the wrong way that that's what I saw so much. Not to say that's what other people experience, but that was my experience on the platform. Whereas I felt like with Spaces very early on, it was just bringing people together with conversations. And that's what I always loved about it. For me, it always felt like a place for community. And it looks like that's what Clubhouse is talking about here. Like, this is a place to connect people together, not necessarily for audio creators to come and have these big TED Talks. It'll be interesting to see. Now, what's next for Clubhouse? So are they going to have this bigger town hall? Like what's going on next for them to hear more?
They're continuing their weekly rooms at the same time, which is Tuesday evening at 5 p.m. Pacific time in the U.S. Next week, they are moving it back one day because of the Labor Day holiday in the United States. So it'll be Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, but usually it's Tuesdays. And so I think it's fair to say that they will tell us a little bit more next week, possibly a timetable or something like that. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I'm eager to hear more about this. So, Suze, is this something that would interest you in using Clubhouse more?
I'm so interested in how they're going to change it that I'll definitely be dipping in and out. And I want to make sure that I catch the replays on the town halls over the next few weeks as well. I'm just, all of this, all things audio, all of it has been about the social audio journey and, the different apps and different people that we've spoken to along the way, different platforms that have included audio over the years. I'm just interested in all of them and how it all kind of fits together. So certainly this change from essentially the standalone app that kicked off social audio in the first place is really one to watch. And I'll certainly be watching and listening very closely, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, I'm interested to know what are the features they're going to remove.
I know. I mean, that's almost as interesting as what they're going to add and what they're going to do with it, right? Because
exactly,
that there are. I think they've said generally the features are ones that people aren't using so much. So I don't know, but that's fine if you're not if you're the one or two people that are using that feature, then it's still going to make an impact on the way that you create your content over there. I just think the whole thing is fascinating, and even the way that they have done all of this behind closed doors from what was a really open, almost community build like we saw over here on Twitter, right the way down to stripping it back. They had all the cuts, they lost a lot of staff, all of that, and then building it back up again into something new, something completely new, we're being told, is just fascinating to watch and to see how it evolves and moves on next. So yeah, really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. And we got just one piece of news from Threads. I guess like the saga continues would be the best way to prompt this up.
Yeah, this is an ongoing saga of Threads. I think over the last few weeks, we have had a post from Alessandro Paluzzi every week for the last 3 weeks, I reckon, about Threads and voice posts. The first one told us that they were working on voice posts behind the scenes. The second one last week told us voice posts will have a maximum of 10 seconds for now. And myself and Madalyn had a bit of a chat about whether or not that was really long enough to put together a voice post. Was that even really worth it? Well, this week, Alessandro Paluzzi has uncovered that Threads continues to work on voice posts, and they're now looking at a maximum duration of 30 seconds. So in my mind, I think the key to this is that somewhere under the hood, they are working on adding voice, adding audio to Threads. I think they're pushing it and testing it and seeing how long they can make these voice posts. And, can we expect to see it in beta soon? Who knows? Is it ever really going to become a thing? Who knows? Do people on Threads really even want voice notes? Who knows? But from the reverse engineer master himself, we are seeing that there's someone somewhere working on it week by week, and slowly pushing it just to see exactly how far they can go with these voice posts. So interesting to see that Meta's not completely given up on audio as well.
I just find it interesting that when we reported on this a week ago here in All Things Audio, it said the maximum duration would be 10 seconds, and now all of a sudden it says 30. So it's like, that's interesting. But it's still being worked on though. Yeah, I mean, this hasn't been launched yet. This is just something that's being worked on. So I just find it interesting, like they just keep upping it while they're working on it. I don't know. We shall see, but who knows? Maybe this will turn into their own version of Spaces with audio.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like Meta, looking across the board at what they're doing with audio, where they're incorporating voice, etc. We reported last week on Instagram having in beta some people who have got notes in the DMs, which is kind of an extra status that you can put up on the bubble in the sort of stories bar, if you like, within your DMs. You can add a voice note to that. It kind of doesn't make sense that they would just add a very similar thing over on Threads, because as we've said, like Threads is kind of born out of Instagram anyway. I don't know, but maybe they're thinking it would sit, if they're only in beta over on Instagram, maybe they're wondering if it will sit better over on Threads than on Instagram. Who knows? Who knows what their thoughts are? But I just love wondering about all of it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Suze, this is always such a great conversation we have here. I'm so glad Michael was able to come spend some time and elaborate on all the stuff going on with Clubhouse, because there's just, we try to stay on top of it all, but it's not easy. It's just so many different things that go on week to week. And for our listeners, if you ever come across any social audio news, anything you think that we should know about, I mean, many times Susan are aware of things, but not everything. So always feel free to DM us or just tag us in a post, let us know about something, because we want to make sure we don't miss it, because this is our goal here every week, is to come with you with all the latest. And Suze, I noticed what you've been doing this whole space is you keep changing the title based on what we're talking about, which I think is so brilliant, because anyone that is looking to discover a live space in this past hour, based on what you're putting in there, like when we talked about Clubhouse, you had that in there, and that could attract somebody looking for the space. So I think it's so smart you're doing that. But it definitely takes having a co-host to be able to do something like that, because talking and trying to change the title at the same time is not an easy task.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes have had trouble following the conversation in my headphones while I'm trying to change the title as well. So it's definitely another octopus moment. Although, I've been doing it over the last few weeks, and actually the first week that we did it, Madalyn, I think we noticed that we hit 100 people in the space again, which we hadn't done for quite a while, or at least it hit like 100 within an hour of it being out on replays or something like that. Anyway,
Yes.
It was just lovely to see that number go up again, because we used to have numbers like that all the time. And, it's tricky, isn't it? Trying to really encourage people in when you know that discoverability on the platform is a problem. So I was trying to work out whether or not that might be something that would help us. It's certainly helped us over the last few weeks. As you say, if there's anybody kind of scrolling through and seeing that, the name Clubhouse, or that we're talking about the updates on Spaces, that's probably far more interesting to someone than just a generic. I think the one that I was using most of the time was social audio news, views and ways to use all things audio, which is great, really, if you know what we do here every week. But if you don't, then you might not discover us and find us. So in changing the title, yes, it is another thing to think about, another thing to do, but I really do think it has helped with discoverability while we're live right here, and then leaving a title on it that might attract people to listen to the replay as well. So I'll probably put something about Clubhouse up there, because that's been sort of one of our main topics of conversation that Michael so brilliantly spoke to us about. And I think that might be interesting to people over here. Although, Elon might not be too happy that we're talking about Clubhouse over here on his
right.
platform. So we might find ourselves thoroughly demoted if I leave that on there.
But if you are looking for an easier way to have discoverability for Spaces, go to spacesdashboard.com. We're always talking about Andrew's wonderful website because it is absolutely wonderful. It's a free website. It's so much you can go and search for Spaces over there, whether it's upcoming, live, or already recorded. And what I love about it is it's like one page. You just go put in @Madalyn Sklar. You're going to see all the Spaces I've hosted, co-hosted, and have spoken in since this site started. And I've done a lot. And Suze, same with you. Like, you can go in there and see all of your Spaces that you've done. And also, what's amazing is that when you go through the list, let's say you missed this, you're listening to the replay, but you wish you could see the posts that we have in the nest. And when you go to replay, you can't always see it. It doesn't always work. You go over to spacesdashboard.com, you go to that space, you click on the title, and then scroll down to the bottom, and all of those posts that were in the nest are there in one place. And that is so amazing. But wait, there's more. The features just keep coming. You have the ability to set alerts. And I love that Andrew has implemented this. If you guys have not tried this yet, when we're done with this space, go to spacesdashboard.com. Let's say you want to be sure you don't miss this space. You can go to Suze, you can go to me, and I host a bunch of others. You can go to a person's profile, hit set alert. You're now going to get an email notification if they schedule it, you'll get the notification that they scheduled it. When they go live, you'll get the notification they're live. You can have it just for when they're hosting. You can have it set for if they host, co-host, or speak in a space. There's so much flexibility with this, and this has allowed me to not miss so many Spaces that I could not stay on top of that were live, and it's been a game changer for me. I'm really liking this. Suze, have you played around with the alert feature?
Yeah, I have done. Yeah, I've got a few alerts set up, which is lots of fun. And as I think I said before, like, it's just easier when it comes into my inbox because I'm in and out of there all day, whereas I'm quite likely to miss the notifications actually in the app. So it's really useful that kind of comes to me, really, which is perfect.
Thank you to all of our speakers who came on and shared so much great stuff. And we're available in all of your favorite podcast apps. We're out there, All Things Audio. You can also go to allthingsaudiopodcast.com as well.
You certainly can. And you can catch us here on Twitter and use the hashtag AllThingsAudio, and we'll pick that up throughout the week. So that's it for this week. But thank you so much to everyone that's been here in the space with us and those of you listening. And we'll catch up with you next week.
Bye, everybody.